Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you here today, and welcome to this exciting day, an important announcement. My name is Mary Fee. I'm the Governor's General Counsel, and just thrilled to welcome you all here today. So if you would please stand. And I'd like to welcome the Chief Justice and the Associate Justices of the Supreme Court. And I'd also like to welcome the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Justice Hudson, and Justice Designee Procaccini.
Thank you, Mary. I'll just come straight up. You get Justice Hudson, I'll switch. There you go. Thank you, everyone. Well, please have a seat, everyone. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this balmy Minnesota day. First of all, I'd like to welcome Chief Justice Gilday and members of the Minnesota Supreme Court, the Associate Justices. Thank you for being here. More importantly, thank you for the work you do, the service you render to Minnesota, and the reputation that you have built of fairness and equity in front of the law for all Minnesotans. To Chief Judge Siegel and members of the Court of Appeals, to our district court judges and chief judges of our district courts, to members of the federal judiciary, to our fellow constitutional officers, members of the legislature, friends and families, and Minnesotans. An important and historic day to be here, one that I think many of us did not anticipate was coming as soon as it did, but is here. And I will start with that. To Chief Justice Gilday, on behalf of all Minnesotans, a thank you for your many years of service to the state and the judiciary. And that's not just punching the clock service. That is heartfelt, pouring your heart out to protect the judiciary and strengthening it in the state of Minnesota. And I don't think, as your humbleness around the issue has never been brought up, the longest serving Chief Justice since 1895, when Chief Justice started that. In the last 100 years, no one has done the job longer, and I will make the case no one was asked to do it in a more difficult time. The disruptions by the pandemic, some of the most difficult cases trying the soul of Minnesota came in front of our courts, the district courts, the appellate courts, and the Supreme Court across this state. Your steady hand, your commitment to justice for all was apparent, and because of that, during your tenure, the judiciary is stronger now than it has ever been. So, Chief Justice, thank you. To all of those dignitaries, I'd like to give a special thank you. I know some of them are here. Certainly, Chair of the Judicial Selection Committee, Erin Sinberg Porter, for her input, her assistance, her wisdom, her friendship, her patience with me over the 5 years of learning from the struggles of pro se litigants to courts of first looks at things. I don't think I could pass the bar yet, but I'm getting close, so thank you for that. And your critical look at placing justices and judges across the state has been critical. When you start the search for Chief Justice, it doesn't start when you're notified on this. I think the idea is every single day learning about the courts and learning of what's needed in that position. But the themes came really quickly that happened. One of the things we're looking for was someone with deep understanding of how the court system functions, and somebody who could do the job immediately once they hit the ground. I wanted someone that had and could advance a vision that promotes justice and fairness and upholds the dignity of the law for everyone. milestone. The logical first place to start was with members of the current Supreme Court. After consulting with them, it became very apparent quickly that we had a lot of talent right in front of us. I want to thank each and every one of them for their input. Kind of challenging, difficult situation when you're talking about colleagues in this position, but no one knows the job better than the current members of the Supreme Court, so thank you for that. I'm pleased to share that today, after that extensive conversations with the legal community and Minnesotans weighing in over time, that it is my incredible pleasure to know that we will be appointing Associate Justice Natalie Hudson to be Minnesota's next Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court. Justice Hudson, and obviously by the response, is no stranger to the people in this room. She is one of our state's most experienced jurists who has a strong reputation as a leader and a consensus builder. She will use her decades of judicial experience to lead the judicial branch with a steady hand and strong convictions. She was initially appointed to the Minnesota Court of Appeals by then-Governor Ventura in 2002 and elevated to the Supreme Court by Governor Dayton. She has a wealth of knowledge and deep understanding of this justice system that are going to serve her and, more importantly, the citizens of Minnesota incredibly well. I know that she is going to be an outstanding Chief Justice. Thank you, Justice Hudson. With the elevation of Justice Hudson, it leaves the opening for an associate vacancy on the court. To be a great Supreme Court justice, you need to not only think about the laws and how they apply to certain facts and circumstances, you need to have a keen understanding of how those decisions will impact the lives of everyday Minnesotans. No one has more experience with this than Justice Designee Karl Procaccini. For many of you who don't know, Karl helped navigate Minnesota through some of our most challenging and uncertain times in our history. Justice Designee Procaccini was essential to my administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. By listening, and the folks who are out here, he is one of Minnesota's brightest legal minds, graduating near the top of his class from Harvard College and Harvard Law School. And after school, he clerked for Judge Diana Murphy on the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals and for Judge Michael Davis of the U.S. District Court for the District of Minnesota. Did I understand that Justice Davis is here? Is it correct? So there we go again. That's exactly right. Justice Designee Procaccini served several years as a partner in a private law firm in Minneapolis before joining the administration in 2019. He recently joined the faculty of St. Thomas Law School as a visiting professor. A short tenure, but it should be St. Thomas's pride to have an associate justice on the Minnesota Supreme Court. I've had, as I said, the opportunity for 5 years to understand this system better, to have people with patience like Chief Justice Gilday to mentor what it means to protect this system. I've had the privilege of literally interviewing hundreds of potential judges and putting them in, most recently 6 judges for the Minnesota Court of Appeals. I've seen the talent that we have across the state. I've seen the skill sets that it has to do, that have to be present to make a great Supreme Court justice. I also had the ability and the privilege of being able to observe, work with, alongside, learn from, and watch decisions being made for the last 4 years by Justice Designee Procaccini, making sure always that not just following the law, the letter and the spirit of the law, but understanding the impact on individuals, understanding with compassion and kindness, with foresight, what those decisions would make. Justices, as this group knows, need to have vast legal knowledge. But it's not enough just to be the smartest lawyer in the room. You have to have life experiences that couple that knowledge to making the wise decisions that the Supreme Court, and I will just say specifically the Supreme Court of Minnesota, is known for. A court that rises above the fray, that decides the tough decisions, and more importantly than anything, has the trust and the confidence of the people of Minnesota. And I can tell you that that trust and confidence didn't take long for me to gain that by watching a sharp legal mind and just a kind, compassionate person execute the things that needed to be done. I am absolutely incredibly proud that I believe our system has given us not just a great Chief Justice designee in Justice Hudson, but also our next Associate Justice in Justice designee Karl Procaccini. So I'm proud of these choices. More importantly, again, Minnesota will be proud of these choices. Your courts will be well served. The interest of Minnesota will be well served. With that, I'd like to turn to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan for a few words before we hear from our newest justices.
Thank you so much, Governor. So today begins a new chapter in Minnesota's history. Minnesota Supreme Court has had 21 Chief Justices, 19 men, 2 women, and no people of color until today. For the first time, our judiciary will be led by a Black woman. Every Minnesotan should celebrate this historic appointment. Justice Hudson is a distinguished and principled leader who has dedicated her career to serving the people of Minnesota. She's represented indigent clients at Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services, worked with law students at Hamlin Law, and been a thoughtful and polished jurist on the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, never wavering in her commitment to justice. I think about all of the young Black girls and women of color who have another reminder today of what is possible. And Justice Hudson knows more about making history than you might think. When her father became the head coach of the McAllister College football team in the final days of 1971, the moment passed without real notice. But Don Hudson had just become the first Black head coach at a predominantly white college in the modern era. His historic appointment was recognized years later, but we're not waiting nearly as long to let the world know about his daughter's historic appointment. I am confident that the court will continue to fight to protect the rights of Minnesotans with Natalie Hudson as Chief Justice. And my confidence is bolstered by knowing that Justice designee Karl Procaccini will be joining Chief Justice Hudson on the court. The past 4.5 years, Minnesota has witnessed several unique challenges. From the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic to the end of the peacetime emergency, Justice designee Procaccini maintained a steady hand at the highest standards. I witnessed firsthand his brilliance and tenacity, but most of all, I witnessed his deep kindness. He was instrumental in achieving substantial reform on the Board of Pardons. With his help, lives across the state of Minnesota have been changed for the better, and people were finally given the chance to start over. Justice designee Procaccini has also shown that he is truly dedicated not just to justice, but also to the people that he serves. Respect for human dignity has consistently been the foundation of his work. Time and time again, he has proven to be courageous, honest, fair, and dedicated to the rule of law. It's hard to truly communicate in a press conference setting how decent and how good a person he truly is. I know that Justice designee Karl Procaccini embodies the very values we look for in our state's highest court. Thank you. And now it is my great honor to introduce Justice Natalie Hudson.
people realized how short I am. They pointed me down to the box. I'm like, you can stand up. You can stand up. So thank you for that. Well, thank you to all of you. It is such an honor to be standing here today. Thank you to Governor Walz. Thank you to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. Thank you to all of my colleagues here on the Supreme Court. It's really just wonderful to see you. Thank you to Aaron Sinberg Porter as well. Wonderful to see you. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor and a privilege to be named the next Chief Justice of the Minnesota Judicial Branch. First thing I would like to say is to acknowledge, and the governor alluded to this already, I'm stepping into a wonderful situation in the sense that this state court system is already one that is widely recognized as one of the most innovative state court systems, forward-thinking state court systems, fair and accessible state court systems in the nation. And that is in large part due to my predecessors, and in particular to Chief Justice Gilday, who has held, yes. What the people of Minnesota often don't see, but which we see as justices on the court and serving with the chief, is, yes, the steady hand, but the integrity, the thoughtfulness for which she is known, and she steadied the ship as we went through the pandemic. But even before that, she was an outstanding leader for the branch and for the court. And so I'm stepping into those shoes, and my hope is that I will be able to pick up where Chief Justice Gilday left off. There are many things that are still yet to be done. As has been alluded to already, we are an innovative court. We have begun remote hearings and the like that we instituted during the pandemic. There's still much yet to be done there as we figure out what to do on a permanent basis going forward. What hearings will be remote, which will be in person, which will be hybrid. Our district courts have already done much of that work, but those policies need to be finalized. And with respect to the district courts, I really want to extend my thanks for your dedication and hard work as well. There is absolutely no way that the chief could do what she did, or that I will be able to do what I need to do without the support and dedication from our Court of Appeals, from our district court judges, from the staff and administrators that help run the judicial system. We have some incredible judges in this state who abide by the rule of law, who are dedicated to the people of Minnesota and to ensuring that our courts are open and fair and accessible to everyone that comes through those doors. And so I look forward to continuing the work that Chief Justice Gilday began, and I know that I will have the support of everyone here in this room. And I guess the last thing I would like to say is, and Justice, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan alluded to the historic moment, and the fact that I am the first person of color and the first black person to be the Chief Justice of the state of Minnesota is of course not lost on me. And I'm deeply humbled and honored by this recognition. I must say, no one gets to a station in life such as this on their own. I did not get here on my own. I stand on the shoulders of a number of black trailblazers, black attorney lawyer trailblazers, many of them who are in this room, such as Judge Michael Davis, who when we were back in the back, we were talking about, he was my first supervisor. In law school, I thought I wanted to be a public defender, and he disabused me. He said, "You're not very good at this." I went to work for the Hennepin County Public Defender's Office my first or second year after law school, and Judge Davis was a public defender then, and an outstanding public defender, and he was my supervisor. And we worked together over that summer, and I learned so much. I learned so much from him, including that I should not be a public defender. It is important work, and I'm so glad there are people, public defenders, who do that work. But I stand on those shoulders and so many other trailblazers here in the state of Minnesota, and I'm fully cognizant of that and humbled by that. Likewise, I've had the support of course, my family. My husband is here, Reverend Willie Hudson, and my son, yes. My son Kobe is here as well, who's also an attorney with the BCA, and yes. They have been my lifelong supporters, and as you all know, every now and then you need somebody to bolster you, to kind of be that backstop, and they have been that for me over the years, and I'm so grateful for that. But I must also say I've had many allies along the way, and I see many of you here in this room today, both people of color and not, just many friends and allies who have been with me along this journey, supported me, encouraged me, and I am so very, very grateful for that support. And so I thank you for all that you've done for me over the years. And with that, I pledge to do my very best. I'm humbled by this opportunity. I have the resolve to continue to make our courts a leading court here in the state of Minnesota, obviously, but in the nation. We want to continue to make our courts accessible and fair to all that come before us. And right now, the court is in the midst of an access and fairness study, something that we do periodically. And it'll be interesting to get the results back from that study. It'll be something that we'll need to sit down and take a look at and see where we might improve, because I think all organizations can always improve. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm encouraged by our newest justice-to-be, Karl Procaccini. I look forward to working with him. What he will find is that this is a collegial court. This is, we have disagreements, but we know how to disagree without being disagreeable. And it is a court of high integrity. It is a hardworking court, and we welcome you, and I know that you will find it to be a very, very rewarding experience. And so with that, again, I thank all of you. Thank you, Governor Walz, for this incredible opportunity. I'm honored and humbled by your selection. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Justice Designee Procaccini to speak.
Hey, Karl. Thank you. Thank you very much. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, First Lady, Chief Justice Gilday, and Justices of the Minnesota Supreme Court, Chief Judge Siegel, Chair Simberg-Porter, other distinguished judges and guests, thank you. First, I want to congratulate Justice Hudson on her historic appointment today. Justice Hudson, I've long admired your commitment to equal justice for all, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Chief Justice Gilday, thank you to you for your amazing service to the state and to the judiciary. You've maintained the judiciary's reputation for integrity and excellence, and we are all better for it. To my future colleagues on the court, I'm excited to start working with you and rolling up my sleeves and getting to work. You've maintained the judiciary's high standards, and I will work hard to maintain those as a justice. I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to serve as a justice on the state Supreme Court. Serving on the Supreme Court is an incredible and humbling responsibility, and it's one that I don't take lightly. Every case that the court hears is important to the parties, maybe one of the most important moments in their lives or in the lives of their family or their business. And Supreme Court cases are extremely important to all of us because they set precedents for decades that impact all of us in the state. I commit to treat every party that appears before the court with respect and to consider all cases impartially with the care and attention and empathy that they deserve. Governor and Lieutenant Governor, thank you for trusting me to serve in this important role. I've learned so much from both of you, and I will take those lessons with me. I'd also like to thank the Chief of Staff, Chris Schmitter, Chair Sinberg Porter, and the incredible staff in the Governor's office for the work that you do every day for the state. You're the hardest working group of people I know, and I'm grateful. Thank you also to my current home, the University of St. Thomas School of Law, and Dean Joel Nichols in particular. St. Thomas is a really special place, and I've been lucky to teach there now for 6 years. It has an incredible student body, faculty, and staff. And Dean Nichols, you've just shown me such grace as I've made this decision, and I owe you a debt of gratitude. There are many, many people who have mentored me along the way in my life and legal career, including my former colleagues at Green Espel, and the many folks who I've worked with in state government. I'd just like to acknowledge 3 especially important mentors to me who've had an outsized impact on my legal career. First, former Justice Lillehaug has been a mentor to me ever since we met, which was actually before I moved to the great state of Minnesota, and we've been close ever since, and I'm grateful for your support and mentorship. Second, Judge Davis, I guess I should thank you for not talking me out of being a judge when I worked for you. I had the honor of working for Judge Davis early in my career, and he's just been the most supportive mentor and friend to me ever since, and so I'm so grateful that you were able to be here today. And third, I'd like to acknowledge the late Diana Murphy, Judge Diana Murphy. Judge Murphy was my first boss in the law, and I think about her a lot. If I can accomplish just a fraction of what she did on and off the bench, I will consider myself very lucky. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank my family. I owe so much to my mother, my sister, my brother, their families, as well as my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law. And especially my wife, Dr. Naila Hamdi, who's here today. Grateful for your love and support. And Governor and Lieutenant Governor, thank you again for this honor and for all that you do for our state. Thank you all very much.
Well, again, on behalf of the people of Minnesota, please have a seat. On behalf of the people of Minnesota, thank you both and your families for accepting these positions to be able to continue to serve. At this time, I think we've already seen it, a humbleness that transcends, so I will try not to go too long here for you, Chief Justice. But I would just mention, for me, on the Chief Justice keen intellect is well known. As I said again, it's one thing to be a legal mind. It's another to be able to apply those and make things happen. And I don't know, I think the folks who have worked with the Chief Justice might know this, but I know that anyone who gets the opportunity to work alongside or be part of a committee that Chief Justice Gilday's part of it makes you better, because I've worked in many different fields and aspects of life, whether it was military or teaching, whatever it might be. I have seen few people that bring not just that intellect, but a work ethic and a preparation that is second to none. You do not go into a meeting with Chief Justice Gilday if you are not prepared. It is you will find out very quickly you are not prepared, and I just think that sense of what people, the justice, if you heard it here, is that's what the people of Minnesota deserve. They deserve the best that we bring to it, and I have witnessed that work ethic, that intellect, that preparation to try and get it right. And so I didn't use the term, and I won't. I don't believe there's any filling the shoes of or replacing. We just simply we'll go and do things in a different way, but different ways can all be good. I will just stress again that the judiciary in this state, as you heard, it's not misplaced pride, is strong, solid, respected, and fair, and no small part of that is because of the work of Justice Lori Gilday.
Thank you so much. It's too much emotion for judges. It's too much emotion for Norwegian judges. So, my purpose today really is one of gratitude. Thank you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, for your kind remarks and, more importantly, for your strong support of the Minnesota Judicial Branch over all these years. I also extend my thanks to Chief Justice Designee Hudson and Associate Justice Designee Procaccini for being willing to serve the court and the people of Minnesota. I'm grateful to the members of the court, those on the court now, and those with whom I served in the past. You have been a constant source of strength and support, and you have my undying respect and admiration. I'm going to date myself now. In the movie The Verdict, Paul Newman's character says that the court exists to give the people a chance at justice. That is the work we have been about these past 13 or so years, giving the people a chance at justice. I'm forever in the debt of the judges and talented court staff who work in 103 locations all across the state of Minnesota every day to give the people their chance at justice. There are two people I want to specifically name today. Jeff Shorba, our state court administrator, and Ginger Meyer, who said she was coming, my executive assistant. There she is. Thank you, Jeff and Ginger, for your support, your help, and your patience. You are the best at what you do. Finally, thanks to the people of Minnesota for every day you let me be your Chief Justice. It has been a blast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice, and thank you all for coming today. This concludes our program. I just want to just thank you again for your attendance at this really exciting day. So, Justices, if you'd like, you can follow my colleague Jake, who will spirit you away from here. And to everyone else, if you need directions finding the reception room, my colleague Adam here in the corner will help you find your way. Thank you again, and thank you so much for coming.
Everyone is welcome at their cookies. For a Q&A.
I think we'll keep the cameras back there and the reporters can come up here. That's great. Are you going to just get cameras back there? If folks can make their way to the governor's reception room for refreshments. Folks, we're going to have Governor Walz take some questions from the media here momentarily. If you'd like to join us in the governor's reception room for refreshments, you can head there now. Come up here. You want to stick with me? Take questions momentarily here. Nice job. Good. Just trying to start. Okay, we'll get him.
Well, I know we're having some side conversations if we could. Good to see you, Chief Justice. We're going to take some, myself and the Chief Justice and the Justice appointees will be willing to take some questions from the press. So as folks are moving towards the reception room here, give us just a minute or two and we'll take some questions. I was kind of managing the show.
I have to tell you, thank you for mentioning my dad. I didn't know you knew
We
about
all were
that.
talking about it when they brought it
just
up.
touched my heart. I just thought, oh my gosh. So
They said he has his own Wikipedia page.
He does. So thank you for
It was
that.
my pleasure.
Thank you, and
Yep,
thank you for your warm comments. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
So excited for you.
That's great.
Okay, let's get started.
Well, good afternoon. Members of the press will be glad to know we moved this in off the front terrace today, so please, we'll start taking questions as we go. Oh, hold the off topic, and I will answer that. All right. I can't even know when you're joking around sports betting anymore. It's like, it's the bane of my existence. We did interview. We interviewed Associate Justice Designee Procaccini. And as I said on this process, I have been at this. When you get ready to select a Supreme Court justice, it doesn't start when there's an opening. It starts the day you take office. And having Chair Sinberg Porter with us on this, going through, having had 6 appeals court interviews recently or whatever, I've had an opportunity to see many of these designees. And on this case, I believe that the best candidates rose to the top, and that was the interviews that we put forward.
Who's never served as a judge.
Yeah.
Where did that fall in your list of considerations when you were looking
Yeah,
at
diversity on the court matters. I think we have a couple current Supreme Court justices who also were not judges. I think I appointed and hadn't been done, I don't think for a while, a district court judge. I do think that diversity of practice, diversity of experience, life experience, all of those things play a role in it. So we do look about this, and we hear from different courts like, look, we need criminal experience, we need civil experience. Same thing holds true on the court.
Republicans have criticized the choice, saying you picked the chief architect of the 2020 lockdowns and mandates rather than looking for a more pragmatic choice. What's your response?
In other news, it's hot out. Of course, that's what they do. That's what they do. Look, the best candidate came forward, someone that I was able to witness, and as you heard Lieutenant Governor and I talk about, I think you'll find in the legal community that Justice Designee Procaccini's intellect, compassion, work ethic are all unprecedented, and I'll make the case Minnesota still falls within those 10 states that had the fewest deaths due to COVID. That was very deliberate that happened, and so I'm proud of that.
Justice Hudson.
Yeah.
He basically said I'm old. and he was trying to be more delicate. He was trying to be more delicate. And you were. And of course I thought about that. And I know the governor and I talked about that. And it was an issue that was front and center. And, you know, at this stage of my career, I've had an amazing career. I've been fortunate and blessed to do a number of things. This opportunity arose. Obviously, none of us knew that the Chief Justice was going to retire. And yes, I'm 4 years from retirement, but I thought it was a wonderful opportunity. I've learned so much as a justice and as a judge over the last 20 years. And I thought I would leave that decision to the governor. And I thought it was something that I could contribute to. And so I'm happy to have been named. But yes, of course, I did think about that. We all have thought about that. But I think it was obviously a good decision and the right decision. And I'm just happy to be able to serve over these next few years and to continue the amazing work that has already gone on before me. So thank you.
Well, Justice, first of all, the age issue on this, we have a singular individual in our Chief Justice Designee in Natalie Hudson, and I think having the ability to be able to get her in, I think we could have a conversation about mandatory retirement ages. I would note that we don't have that. So the person picking this person doesn't have an age limit, but the person does. So, and we just talked about what would happen, where that will be, and we're comfortable with this pick. We're comfortable with the Chief Justice pick.
Justice Hudson, could you just address, we've seen low confidence in the national Supreme Court. How do you plan to lead the Supreme Court here in Minnesota to a place where Minnesotans can be more confident in the state Supreme Court?
You know, one of I think the chief issues facing all courts around the nation, and certainly our court is no exception, is trying to rebuild, if you will, and to continue to strengthen the trust and confidence that people have in the judicial system. Frankly, I think there is more trust here in Minnesota. I think, you know, if you look nationally, I think you're correct. But I certainly think that here in Minnesota, we've earned the people's trust. That said, it is an ongoing issue. There is no question about that. And I think what I would tell the people of Minnesota is simply that it is important that the citizens of Minnesota understand that you have the executive branch and the legislative branch that are by definition partisan, but that your judicial branch is not that. Of course, we all have our own backgrounds and, you know, we are a product of our lived experiences. But when you come to the bench as a judge, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of Minnesota, the Constitution of the United States. And what that means for us, and we all take that very seriously, is that we're going to do our very best to decide the cases based upon the facts, based upon the law, based upon the precedent that is out there, regardless of who's in front of us and regardless of party affiliation. And we take that seriously. And so I think it's important for the people of Minnesota to know that that's how I view, and I know that's how all judges view the judicial branch. And the last thing I would say is, you know, we have a number of policies and procedures in place within our state court system that, if you look on a federal level, are not there. For instance, we have a financial disclosure policy at the court. And so we have to disclose any monetary gifts or the like over a certain value. And so we have things in place that I think help build that trust and confidence. And as I said in my initial remarks, I think as we see some of the results that come in from our Access and Fairness survey that's ongoing, we'll look at what kinds of comments we get there and how the people of Minnesota right now view our court system, and where we can make changes and can make improvements and can assure maybe more access or more transparency. We'll try to do that. So thank you.
Transparency and particularly cameras in the courtroom. During the trials, police officers killed George Floyd, wasn't televised, and I think you can make the case that helped with the confidence in the verdict. Can you give us your sense as to where it's going to be, or is there a possibility for expansion of cameras at your level and at the
Well, I think you're right. I agree with you. I think having cameras in the courtroom during the Chauvin trial it certainly improved transparency, and I think it did give the citizens of Minnesota a chance to see their courts at work, and I think that did enhance confidence in the court system. As you're probably aware, we just amended the rules of criminal procedure. Most of that goes into effect on January 1st, loosening the use of cameras in the courtroom. And a lot of that will now be up to the individual district court judges, and then with some exceptions, but up to the district court judges on a case-by-case basis to determine whether or not cameras will be allowed. When the court issued that order, I was in favor of it. I voted for it. I stand by that. I do think there are concerns, obviously. There could be downsides to it. But I think by and large, having that kind of transparency is a good thing. We'll see what happens. I think we need to have it play out for a little while once it all goes into effect, and we'll need to monitor, how trials are conducted with cameras there, and if there are things that come up that need to be addressed, we will deal with that as a court. Obviously, it's not my decision solely as Chief Justice. That kind of matter would come back to the court in the form of a proposed rule change if it turns out someone thinks that that's needed, and we'll consider that as a court.
Question about just access to the courts and cameras in the courtroom. Yeah, I mean, it's an issue that I'll have to take a close look at, and certainly I think that what the court has been doing lately has made a lot of sense, and obviously having access to the Chauvin trial in particular was important to the public, and to ensure that there was integrity, especially in the midst of a pandemic.
Mr. Procaccini, are you ready for this challenge, having never served as a judge? Does it feel a little daunting, the task ahead of you?
It certainly feels daunting, but I think I'm ready, and I'm excited to do it. This is an opportunity to serve the people of Minnesota in a way that I really couldn't have ever imagined, and I'm excited to do it. I'm ready to go and excited for it.
Response to the criticism from Republicans is that you were just doing your job during COVID-19, I imagine?
So what is the criticism?
Criticizing that you were the author of a lot of the executive orders about regarding COVID-19 and shutdown.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. That was my position in the governor's office, and our team wrote many executive orders related to the pandemic, related to civil unrest, related to all sorts of public emergencies that we experienced in those years. I'm proud of that work, proud of the team that did it. It was an amazing effort, and yeah, I don't have any apologies. Yeah. It's a very fair question. A mentor once told me, and you heard it from Chief Justice Designee Hudson, when a judge raises their right hand and takes that oath of office, they are swearing their loyalty to the people of Minnesota, to the Constitution of Minnesota, to the laws of Minnesota, and leaving behind whatever past interests, clients, activities they might have had in their past. And I take that responsibility incredibly serious. It's right there in the Code of Judicial Conduct, and I take it very seriously. Well, so just speaking of recusal generally, right? Every judge needs to take that responsibility seriously, consider each case as they come up. certainly any case where I acted as a lawyer for a client that comes before the Supreme Court would be one where I would need to recuse. So any case with the same or similar subject matter for a client would be one where I would recuse, and all other cases I'd have to take it a case-by-case basis with the ethics experts at the court.
How soon will the two of you be back on the ballot for re-election?
It would be November 2024. 2024.
Can you talk about you converted to Islam, if I understand? Can you talk about your faith journey a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I can confirm that I'm a Muslim. I leave it to the historians to determine if I'm the first. Yes, I am a Muslim. I converted when I married my wife, and that's that.
Chief Justice Hudson, we heard the lovely story about your father. Can you talk a little bit more about the emotion of this day for you?
Yes, I was just commenting to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. I was so touched when she made those statements about my father. I wasn't aware that she knew of it. And, my father was a trailblazer, clearly, in his own right. And one of the things I learned from him was perseverance and to never give up. I learned resiliency during that entire time at McAllister, despite the fact that racial slurs were hurled at him. Coaches walked off the field. They wouldn't coach with a black man. Players left. But my dad persevered through all of that. And watching him, I was a teenager. I was in high school at the time. And so watching him, for me, was a lesson in perseverance, in courage, and in integrity. And that has carried me through my career. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who's had ups and downs in their careers. Things don't always go your way. And so when I've hit those bumps in the road for myself, I've had my father's experience to look back on and say, if my dad could do that, I can do this. And so it's been a profound had a profound impact on my life. And what's interesting now, some of those football players who are, in their 70s now, who stayed with the team, white and black, who stayed with the team, are friends of mine, and they check in on me. And when my dad was ill and before he passed, they checked in on him. They were a steady presence in his life. They checked on my mother. But yeah, they're like my big brothers, and so they watch out for me, because Coach would want them to. That's always what I hear. Coach would want me to check on you, and so yes, it has had a profound impact on my life. Thank you. I embrace the idea that I'm a trailblazer. I think the Lieutenant Governor hit the nail on the head, which is representation is so important, and I recognize that. And I think any of us, when you're the first woman in a position, when you're the first person of color, you recognize the representational value of that, because it's so important for our little girls, black boys, women, to see women and people of color in positions of authority, to dream for that. I think it's important to the broader community, though, because I don't think we want a system, a judicial system, or any system where, just as an example, there are no women in it when women make up half the population. I mean, I don't think, for those of you who are fathers, who have daughters, I don't think that's the world you want your daughters to grow up in. You want them to have opportunities. So I embrace that. They are big shoes. I feel the weight of that a little bit, but I think that's a good thing. It keeps me humble, keeps me responsible, keeps me, driving forward.
One more, if there is one.
Thank you all for coming.